sure at all, I said, my eyes darting toward the door. I slid into my raincoat. Listen, he said, holding my elbow like a football coach instructing a rookie on the sidelines. Go slow. You can stop any time you want. All right, I need to go. Text me later to let me know you're okay. The sidewalk was a sea of umbrellas. I made my way to the curb and shot my hand up, prepared to wait 20 minutes for one of San Francisco's limited number of cabs. A driver immediately flashed his headlights and pulled over. I gave him the address. I opened the fogged window and looked up at the starless, heavy sky. The pavement shone with moisture as we ascended Divisadero Street, the long hill that separates the eastern and western halves of the city. As the rooftops swished by, I mentally retraced my steps, taking one last chance to reconsider before I ruined my life. I'd known Paul, 5 years my junior, for a few years. He'd always flirted, which had seemed harmless enough until about 6 months ago. I'd invited him and several others to a party hosted by the magazine where I worked, one of those 5-star hotel soirees where the free booze makes everyone giddy. I'd been chatting away when Paul interrupted, lightly placing his fingertips on my forearm. I think you might be the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, he said, eyeing me without apology. Because he'd met Scott, and because I knew him to be something of a good-natured ladies' man, I tried not to take his compliment to heart. I was used to being called cute, sometimes pretty. No man had ever called me beautiful. I quickened to it, despite myself. And then, 2 months ago, as I was packing to leave Mexico after a vacation, Paul sprang to mind unexpectedly. I remembered the precise moment. I was folding my bikini into my suitcase and noting with sadness how rapidly my bikini-wearing days were coming to a close. Even so, I told myself, Paul would kill to see me in this. Finally, there was another cab ride, just 3 weeks ago. Paul and I had shared a taxi after impromptu drinks with friends. Once we were ensconced in the cab alone, all I needed to do was sit back and wait. I gave in to the hush that fell over the back seat. I gazed out the window, feeling him watch me. The second I turned to look at him, he lunged, pinning me to the vinyl, his lips on mine, his big hand around the back of my neck. What thrilled me as much as the kiss was how he didn't ask, how his eyes narrowed, animal-like, honing in on my mouth. It lasted only a few seconds. When the taxi stopped in front of my house, I quickly pulled away and ran inside, mentally repeating, it was just a kiss. As Divisadero's rambling storefronts approached and then receded amid the wet sounds of the night, I glanced at the driver's heavy brow in the rearview mirror. I should ask him to pull over. This was a midlife crisis, a cliché. I'd get out, walk through Pacific Heights, and clear my head. I should tell him to turn back toward the Castro and my cozy flat, where my husband waited with a book and a glass of wine. Perhaps at this early juncture, you're already picturing him, imagining some rationale for my behavior, that he was a jerk, that our marriage was sexless. Inconveniently for me, neither was true. Scott had his limits, but he loved me, and I loved him. On the other hand, you might also be thinking this particular cab ride was a simple matter of my being a slut. In fact, with the exception of one very traditional friend, I was the least experienced 43-year-old woman I knew, a firstborn, over-responsible good girl who'd practiced monogamy my entire life. By good girl, I don't mean prudish. I'd slept with a few guys, 4 to be exact, including Scott, and I enjoyed sex. Neither do I mean especially kind or generous. What I mean is that I was terrified of misbehaving, of causing harm to anyone. My bad deeds didn't come easily, and my good deeds were fueled by an overwhelming need for approval. I internalized instead of acting out. Until now. As the driver turned off Divisadero,